I'm going to talk today about my book, Hot, Flat, and Crowded. And what really motivated this book was my sense that we get our groove back as a country by taking on the world's biggest problem. And I think the world's biggest problem are all the nexus of issues that flow out of the planet getting hot, flat, and crowded. So those are, to me, the 5 big mega trends. Let's go back to our list. The 5 biggest problems of the early 21st century all have the same solution: abundant, cheap, clean, reliable electrons and molecules. Whichever university, whichever community, whichever state, whichever country can, through energy innovation, conservation, and efficiency, come up with a source of abundant, cheap, clean, reliable electrons and molecules, will actually be able to dramatically ease energy and natural resource supply and demand, undermine petro-dictatorship, mitigate climate change, relieve energy poverty, and dramatically reduce biodiversity loss. How cool is that? The world's 5 biggest problems all have the same solution. What that says to me, friends, is something very clear. The next great global industry is going to be ET, energy technology, the search for abundant, cheap, clean, reliable electrons and molecules. And the country that owns ET is going to have the most energy security, economic security, national security, intellectual security, competitive companies, global respect, healthy environment. That country has to be, not exclusively, but it has to be the United States of America. If it is not the United States of America, thank you, if it is not the United States of America, the chance of us passing on our living standards to our kids is 0. It is 0 because ET will be the next big thing. And as Jeff Immelt, the head of GE, said to me when I interviewed him for the book, Tom, if you want to be big today, you've got to be big in big things. And there will be nothing bigger than ET. So what I tell people, and really what I'm trying to do in this book, friends, is redefine green. Green is partly about lifestyle. It is how you live your life, and never, ever, ever impugn or diminish that. But green, in a hot, flat, and crowded world, is also going to be a source of not just electric power, but national power, economic power, global respect. And really everything I've been trying to do in my column and book is to redefine green, because I think that to name something is to own it. Well, friends, I'm here to tell you in the face of that list and those challenges, green is geopolitical, geostrategic, economic, capitalistic, patriotic. Green is the new red, white, and blue. It is so obvious. That's what green is. So, I know what you're thinking. I've given this talk before. I know what you're thinking. But Mr. Friedman, we're having a green revolution. I read about it in the Northwest Sky Miles magazine. Oh, I love when I hear that. A green revolution? Really? Us? Having a green revolution? Have you ever been to a revolution where no one got hurt? You'll know the green revolution is here when 2 things happen. When companies have to either change or die, companies and communities, and the word green disappears. There's no word I want to eliminate more from the English language. And that's what we want to do with the word green. We want it to become so much the norm. The only time anyone will use it is when they say that is not a green building, or a green car, or a green city. That's what a real revolution would look like. Now, how do we get there? I'm not against regulation. Lord knows I'm not against Kyoto. If anyone can get 192 countries around the world to all agree on verifiable limits and reductions of their CO2 emissions, may God bless you and keep you. This is not just a problem for regulators. This is a problem for engineers. We need to stimulate 10,000 green engineers in 10,000 garages, trying 10,000 things, 1,000 of which will be promising, 100 of which will be way cool, and 2 of which will be the next green Google and green Microsoft, and give us that source of abundant, cheap, clean, reliable electrons. That's really my focus. And that's why when people say to me, Friedman, are you a solar guy, you a wind guy, you a cellulosic guy? I say, actually I'm none of those. I'm an ecosystem for innovation guy. I want your city, your governor, your state, and my country to put in place the ecosystem of rules, laws, standards, regulations, and most of all, prices. Price signals, a price on carbon that will stimulate those 10,000 green innovators in those 10,000 green garages to try 10,000 things. And if you take nothing else away from this talk, please take this. The IT revolution was a green field. So when Steve Jobs invented the first laptop, he wasn't competing against 3 dirty, cheaper laptops out there that already existed and did the same thing. He gave us a whole new set of functions on a green field. That's not true with ET. With ET, whatever you invent, cleaner source of light, cleaner source of transportation, cleaner source of heating and cooling, always has to compete against existing, cheaper, dirty alternatives, and has to emerge in the face of those alternatives. And that's why we have to make dirty fuels from hell more expensive, oil and coal, and cheap fuels from heaven cheaper. Because otherwise the cheap fuels will never emerge. Because remember one other thing. Coal and oil are commodities. The more demand you create for them, the more the price goes up. Wind, solar, geothermal, solar thermal, they are technologies. The more demand you create for them, the price goes down because they benefit from learning curves. Friends, do not fool yourselves. Without a price signal, without a price on carbon that makes dirty fuels more expensive and clean fuels cheaper, we will not get a clean, green revolution at scale. We will get a lot of hobbyists. Like I said, I love hobbies. I used to build model airplanes. I don't try to change the climate as a hobby. Leaders write the rules. Rules shape markets. Markets give you scale. And that leads me to the conclusion of my talk, because it really comes back to where I started. It's about governance, folks. It's about who writes the rules. That's why I got a chapter in the book about the real green revolution. It's called If It Isn't Boring, It Isn't Green. I'm a big believer, and I address right now all the students on this in the crowd. Friends, ExxonMobil, they don't have a Facebook page. They're just in your face, okay? And ExxonMobil, they don't have a chat room. They're in the cloakroom. They're in the cloakroom where the rules get written. And if you are not in the cloakroom where the rules that shape the market get written, you are nowhere. So get out of Facebook and into somebody's face, okay? Because that is what the green revolution is all about.